Yasuni National Park in the Ecuadorian Amazon is considered the most biodiverse place in the world by many people. I'm going to take you there to Nature Journal, but first you have to go on this little canoe ride. Try not to get wet. This is the perfect time for me to whip out my small sketchbook. It has the same paper as my regular sketchbook, can do quicker sketches, keep it in my pocket, and less worried about it getting damaged. Here you can see a map of Yasuni National Park and the surrounding areas. Not only is this one of the most biodiverse places in the world, but there are also tribes here that do not want to be contacted by industrial civilization. So there's special areas within Yasuni National Park that are supposed to be reserved for these tribes that originally split off from the Waorani people in the 1960s, I believe. One important thing to point out is that the national park is not completely protected from deforestation. You can see cleared land here. The government reserves the right to develop petroleum resources and other resources within this entire area. So there is a lot of movement. Here you can see the pipelines that take petroleum out of this area to be produced into gasoline. Here you can also see the incursion of oil palm production, which has caused huge problems in many parts of the world and is problematic in Amazonia as well. To produce the oil for human consumption requires deforestation and a lot of pesticides, usually for these monocultures. Cattle is another big use of land here and a source of deforestation. While in Yasuni, we frequently saw these boats carrying tanker trucks with petroleum and other petroleum products. So it's one of the crazy things that you can be in a biodiverse place like this and constantly seeing these trucks going by full of who knows what. All right, now that I told you about all the unromantic parts that make this less of a pristine wilderness than you might have thought, here are the romantic parts. Look, jaguar scratches on the first tree that we walked past. I was on a tour with 4 other people, so I had to adapt to the pace a little bit. The main leader was a Chilean photographer and birder named Humberto Castillo, and our guide was Cristian Alvarado from the local Quechua community, and we had 2 other participants beside myself. Alright, so I'm in Yasuni National Park right now and trying to nature journal, but it's a little bit hard because of the pace. Being with a guided group means it's a little bit harder to find the timing for nature journaling. I am keeping an eBird list, so at the very least, I can, draw some of those based on photos when I get home. Another tactic is to take notes as you're moving with the group, and in biodiverse locations such as this, regardless of what kind of group you're with, you're probably going to have to use some quicker nature journaling techniques. Alright, so since we're moving pretty quickly, what I started doing is I pulled out my small sketchbook. I carry this sketchbook in the pocket of my pants, and I can take notes here, for example, while I'm walking a little bit. So here you can see some quick sketches I did. These work when you're with a group of people and are moving a little bit quicker. A smaller sketchbook, it's just easier sometimes to be taking out, and also you don't feel maybe like as much perfectionism around it because it's smaller paper. This is a Stillman and Burn, so it actually has the same paper that I have in my regular sketchbook, but just smaller. At the same time, you never know when the group is going to stop for a longer period of time, so being ready to do a longer sketch. For example, right now the guide is using playback to try to bring a bird in closer, so now I could do like a quick sketch, maybe of like a plant that I'm interested in. I could fill in information that I'm missing from my notes, or I could do a little scene. I think I'm going to try to draw a little scene right now showing the group that I'm with. Okay, so we saw a group of about 7 woolly monkeys, 5 to 7 woolly monkeys, so stopped for a little bit longer because people like mammals. And since I was already working with this small sketchbook, I had to fit a quick sketch into here. Usually I don't like drawing monkeys very much, but this came out okay. I got some important information, including the pale colored butthole, and this one looks like a ninja, but I got the face better on this one. That was actually looking very quickly at one of my companion's photos, so sometimes it's good to look quickly at someone's photo and use that as a resource. This sketchbook is small and is way harder to do watercolor in, but it still worked out. And I captured the moment. We probably were only there for 10 minutes, so not much time for decision making. So this is the sketchbook that I had out, so I just went with it. Sometimes in these kind of situations, your main obstacle is actually spending too much time making decisions, and what you need to just do is record information and start making marks on the page and not think about it too much. A couple reminders that always matter when you're nature journaling is nature journaling has 3 languages: words, numbers, and images. So try to use all 3, and remember that each one has strengths and weaknesses. So for example, words can be really fast, especially in a situation like this where I don't have control over many factors. I don't have control over the speed. Sometimes just writing down one sentence captures so much information, in this case about a sound, which would be impossible to represent with a drawing. Really fast, using words in that way. Also, don't forget to count things. Numbers are really fast too, and is very important information. So for example, with these monkeys, I almost forgot to put how many monkeys were there, but then I remembered to write down 5 to 7 woolly monkeys. Well, I think it's the biggest monkey in the Amazon basin. Really cool monkey, and the number is really important. Later on, if I didn't write down the number, that information will be lacking, and it took me a microsecond to write down those numbers. So you can see the light is starting to get lower. It gets dark really early and really fast. We're almost right on the equator here, so the quality of light is changing, and this is a great time to be seeing animals. Even though the sun is starting to go down, it's still very hot. Let me check my thermometer real quick. My thermometer says it's almost 90 degrees right now, so very hot. It's also exceptionally dry. Things have been getting drier in many parts of Amazonia, and this area is no exception. The leaf litter is super dry and crunchy. There's more fires now. All right, let's see what people found. ¿Qué vieron?
Un insecto bien raro.
Ay, chota. Solo es un insecto. Do you see it? Do you see it?
Soy pedongo también.
Okay, so when you're nature journaling on a trip like this, and there's a view, and everybody sits down for a minute, you don't get to sit down. Because that is your chance to get some nature journaling in and maybe do a landscapeito. So I tried to work quickly here to capture this view. The light is changing quickly, but that's one of the things that you have to do if you're nature journaling. If there is a short break, that means that is the time to do a longer page. So you can see that's the only thing I have in my bigger journal. Everything else is in my smaller journal. It's much easier to do the watercolor in the bigger journal. You can hear the howler monkeys in the background as the sun sets. One important nature journaling skill that I've mentioned before, and I think this applies to other aspects of drawing as well, is knowing how much time you have and calibrating your approach to the amount of time you have. Sometimes you don't know how much time you're going to have, so you should be able to develop your drawing a little bit more in case you get extra time. But if you only have 5 minutes and you know you only have 5 minutes, you should know what kind of approach or what kind of technique you can fit into that 5 minutes. Wow. All right, just got back to the lodge after the first walk through Yasuni. So definitely a lot more developed of a park or wilderness area than I was expecting. So that's a little bit, weird. Pace was pretty fast, so definitely challenging for nature journaling. Glad that we have a really small group, because a lot of times, even with 4 people, 3 of which, actually I guess we're 6 people, 2 guides, it's a little bit hard to see things all the time. So a little bit challenging for nature journaling, but I got some good sketches in. I used my small sketchbook mainly, and just super sweaty. It's still like almost 90 degrees. It's dark. Dinner's gonna be in an hour, and then we're gonna go for a night hike, which should be fun. So I'm gonna, clean off and maybe edit some of my photos and videos before going to get some food. Thanks to all my Patreon members for making this episode possible. You're all awesome people and believe that nature journaling can make the world a better place. If you want to see the next episode in this series, click on this link here.